Mickey here with Carry Trainer. I hope that you're doing awesome. Today is the 30th of September, 2021. I'm only listing that because, as most of you know, stuff stays on YouTube for a long time, maybe forever. I want to talk to you about surrendering something. Surrendering something that usually once you give it up, it's very hard to get back. Some of you listening to this in the future are going to wonder why I'm going to pause here for a minute, because I'm going to wait for folks to jump on that want to be here live. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Northern Illinois. Spending the day doing some training and looking over what's going on in the world. If any of you follow us on Instagram, hey all, hey all, hey all. Any of you guys follow us on Instagram, you will have seen that I put a few posts up. By the way, how's my audio? Am I coming in clean and clear for you? Good afternoon to you, Aaron. Harvest time, all right. Tennessee, audio's good. Thank you, thank you. If you looked at our Instagram page the last couple days, you may have noticed a lot of arguments. One of the videos we put up has over 1,800 comments, most of which are people trying to tear each other apart, tear each other limb from limb. Verbally, with a little texty text. No, I can't moderate all those comments, nor do I try to. But here's what I want to talk about, what we give up. And what we give up that I think that we should never surrender is I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm going to make you hold on a little bit longer. Here's the thing. We get so wrapped up in what we feel is the right way. Let me ask you a question. Who believes that liberty is a birthright? Liberty here as a United States citizen is a birthright. Who believes that? Raise your hand. I do. I believe it. Here's the thing about liberty, though. It might be a birthright, but people had to fight, i.e. the revolution, to gain and solidify that liberty for us. All right, I dig it. So Luke, birthright, it's worth more than security. You are quoting the often misquoted quote from Benjamin Franklin. Awesome. I hope you love that lube. Challenge you to look that quote up because it is completely out of context. The quote that you're thinking of that people oftentimes read, Franklin's conversing via letters with somebody in regards to them literally needing to hire security. Look that one up, but that's not what I want to talk about in this video. Folks have lost their freaking minds, and I don't think this is new. I think it's been around as long as human beings have been able to communicate with their words. And can't communicate in any type of sense to get anything done. Just go look at the comments section anywhere. We can argue about what caliber is best, or what color camouflage, or what optic, or what zero. I mean, you want to get a good argument going with gun guys, talk about a 50-yard zero versus a 100-yard zero versus a 36-yard zero, etc. And you will have guys argue vehemently. Liberty, let's talk about that. Do you believe that somebody has a right to have a differing freaking opinion? Gotcha, Luke, I gotcha. Yeah, we have a right to have a differing opinion. And here's the other thing. Just because you disagree with me or somebody else, your opinion, no matter what you base it upon, doesn't invalidate somebody else's experience. So, but my opinion. What if my opinion is based in experience? This is where things start to get a little crazy. I mean, I had a guy send me a message this morning out of the blue, sent me a message that just said, "You are a coward." I don't care. That doesn't offend me. I'm not some like superhero. I think everybody's cowardly sometimes, but I'm like, okay, why am I a coward? And he went on to tell me why I'm a coward. And I'm like, all right, like, I'm glad that you're the type of person that sends random strangers private messages insulting them. This is not about, ooh, it's the internet. I've talked about this for years. It's not the internet. This is human beings communicating. That's happening on the internet, but it's still human beings communicating. So I think it's a flippant excuse. And really, just so we're clear, the broad picture of what I'm talking about is if all of us are supposed to be, pardon my mispronunciation there, if all of us are supposed to be excellent stewards of this republic, if we, you and I, who are supposed to know better, if we're supposed to be the ones protecting, proliferating, promoting liberty so it continues for our posterity, as Adams talked about it, continuing for those that happened that those in the past made it happen for us in the future. If that's our job, should we not formulate good arguments? Should we not formulate good opinions? Got pepper sprayed today for work? Cool, that's fun. Man, I get frustrated. I get frustrated because it seems like people in this community that are supposed to pound their chest and talk about, one, how much they love the Constitution and love our way of life, do so little. Like, we can't even have a conversation and care enough about another person's opinion to listen. So the guy calls me a coward. We end up having a nice conversation. He apologized. Did I need him to apologize? No, because my self-worth is not dictated by what some stranger tells me. Did it make me angry? No. Did it make me feel good? No. But who cares? Who cares? At the end of the day, what you think about you matters. The way that these comment sections have just turned into vile stews of shit is disgusting. How are we, you and I, people are so concerned in telling me about stolen elections. I've yet to meet a person who's arguing about stolen elections with me that's going to explain to me something that they've done to really create positive change in the world. I've worked in the gun industry for years. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't care about guns. I mean, that discussion's meaningless to me. I'm talking about actual change in the world around us, but I get you. I don't care about the gun industry. To me, it's not even an industry. It's people. It's a hobby for most people. But what I'm talking about here, friends, is how can we expect to create change in the world, to protect our way of lives if we can't even communicate with strangers on the internet, usually about things that don't even matter, without losing our temper and losing our cool. The thing that I'm talking about not giving up is your ability to control your emotions. Never surrender your control over yourself or your emotions. See, we say things like, you made me angry, you pissed me off. I didn't do that. I allow myself to lose control. I hold the reins to my mouth. I hold the reins to my fists. I hold the reins to my pistol. Guns don't shoot people by themselves. Fists don't punch people by themselves. And our tongue or our fingers doesn't just do shit by itself. We choose. We choose. This community of people has very few who actually want to talk about things like emotional intelligence or control. I'm not patting myself on the back. It's not really like a fun conversation, is it? Let's talk about beers, cigars, poontang, and, frickin' guns. Let's talk about that because it's far more fun, is it not? And of course, the answer always is going to be yeah. I'm reading a couple of the comments here. The thing about emotions are, we don't need to suppress them. They're there for a reason. Emotions do tell us something, but just because you're angry doesn't mean you should act on that anger. Maybe you need to change something about the way you approach information. Maybe you need to change the way that you allow that information to affect you on a physical level, because you may feel something that you could identify as anger or rage or sadness or fear, but usually there's some physical responses that happen to it too. I can feel my blood pressure increase. I can feel my pulse quicken. I can feel my respiration rate quicken. So that's a physical symptom that I can attach to that emotional component, right? What am I going to do about it? So sometimes rage is great. If I see somebody hurting somebody that's an innocent person, righteous rage is okay. That thing is wrong. I am going to utilize this shot of adrenaline to use my physical body to stop that person, that thing, that animal, whatever it is, from hurting somebody, right? See, the whole thing about God in schools and stuff, I love history. I quote this often, but I just shared it in a post yesterday. Patrick Henry talked about it. I have but one lamp by which to guide my feet, and it is the lamp of experience. There's a lot of shit that when God was in schools wasn't so good. Sodomy from priests and pastors and teachers, rampant physical abuse. How about rampant racism? How about rampant sexism? I mean, the whole concept of things were better than for some people, better than for certain people. I think that we're better off now than we ever have been. We choose. I mean, you guys are choosing right now, 80 some odd people there are choosing to engage in this conversation with me, which I'm grateful for. We need to begin to take choice back and understand, literally, I choose how to interact. Every time I open my mouth, look, there's plenty of times I want to lash out at people in comment sections. I want to say, what are you, freaking stupid? What are you, dumb? But where does that take me? One, I've lost my ability to communicate with that person probably ever again. Two, I've showed the world or anybody watching that I do not have control of myself. More concerning to me is not what that person thinks, but me, myself. I know. So I've lived long enough that I have made many mistakes. I've lived without integrity, without character, without honor. Personally, I'm only talking about me. I've lived without character, integrity, and honor enough in my life that I cherish the fact that that's something that's hard to get back. If you lose the respect of people, it's very hard to get that back. You have to work very hard for it. So for me, I don't want to diminish who I am by just being a dipshit in lashing out. What this comes down to is not just what people think of us, but what we think of ourselves, which is self-love. I've talked about this stuff as long as I've run these channels on social media, Instagram, here, Facebook, etc. Could we be more popular if I just did more gun reviews? Yeah, I don't care about popularity. I care about the few of us that want to communicate in a meaningful way to where we can actually drive change here. Not in Langdon Tacticals t-shirt, but here in ourselves. What else is there? Who gives a flying shit what dudes or dudettes in comment sections think of us? In that, though, that does not mean that we give in and satiate the beast inside of us, because what is our goal, our mission? And therein, I think, lies the truth. Oftentimes, the goal, the mission is to satiate that beast, because in the moment, I want to be right. I want to prove to this stupid mother effer that I'm right and that they're wrong, that they're dumb and I'm smart, that I'm superior and they're inferior, which is really what boys do. That's not what men do. That's what children do. And that's really what I see a lot of. It's immaturity. I've been that dude enough. So every time I talk to you guys, I try to clarify this as often as possible. I'm speaking about shit that I've done or have lived over and over. I've done all this stuff. I've made those mistakes and still will continue to. I'm imperfect. We all are. But I'm really tired of all these social media jagoffs trying to come off like they're perfect. They don't miss targets. Their hair's always perfect. They get the ladies. They don't get tapped out in jiu-jitsu. They'd win every fight. blah, 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 blah. Well, I have news for you. I've seen a lot of these guys on the range. They suck. I've seen these guys' biceps. They're weak. I've seen some of these dudes on the mat, or they don't show up. They're poonch-tangs. Yeah. I disagree with you. Without God and the Ten Commandments and the court system, everything started going downhill. Example, abortion. All right, Aaron Goodman. So abortion, I don't agree with. I think it's horrible, but Ten Commandments was in the court system, and we, the fucking people, allowed hundreds of thousands of slaves to be kept. So it's illogical. It's illogical. We cannot cherry pick history and say because God was in school. I'm not anti-God, nor am I anti-Bible, nor am I anti-Ten Commandments, but I don't like illogical arguments. So the Ten Commandments was in school. At the same fucking time that the Ten Commandments was in school, at the same time, we had human beings owning other human beings like cattle, like dogs, like property, making them till fields for their own riches. It's an illogical argument. I'm sorry. It's illogical, and I just can't. I'm not disagreeing with your premise. Should we go back to that place? Sure. Why did God come out of the schools? God didn't come out of the schools. God came out of your kitchen table. God came out of you being a mom or dad, how you raise your kids. God came out of the way people respect our way of life. That said, though, we talk about the past. We are way more respectful of the earth now than we were in the past. I mean, it was just quite normal for people to go out and murder a boatload of fish, murder 20 deer, kill every freaking thing because we just thought there's more, there's more, there's more. We are much more cognizant now as a people. There's a lot of us. I spent years working in the energy efficiency field in my construction life. I know quite a bit about that stuff. We're way more cognizant of these things now. While we have a different world, we treat our poor better. Poor people are treated, or indigent people, homeless people are treated far better now than we ever have. Oh, no, we make stuff now that will destroy the world. We made way worse stuff in the past. We just dumped shit into our waterways, dumped shit into our rivers. We have done a much better job of controlling those types of pollutions. It's not about making stuff. You know what it comes down to? I'm in a room right now with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 lights. I've got the internet going. I've got the camera going. I've got microphones. We live a life full of energy-rich, energy-hungry, rather, devices and habits. Got a pickup truck that burns tons of fuel. Wife's got an SUV that burns tons of fuel. We live in my home has 2 furnaces. My home has 2 air conditioners, right? This is the real problem. We live in a world where we have everything at our fingertips and we want more and more and more. But I don't want to talk about that. It's a sidetracked item that I think is important to talk about, but it's not what I want to talk about here today. I want to drive home this point of taking ownership, of releasing these emotions on people in comment sections, in the line at the drive up because you're waiting for your coffee, in traffic, wherever. We do this and we don't grow past it because it feels good in the moment. I'm not hearing about it. What am I not hearing about? What is this stream? Doctors perform 1 million abortions every year. Well, do the doctors respect life? How about do the moms and dads killing those kids respect life? It's not just the docs, but again, this stream isn't about abortions either. It's about taking ownership of yourself. See, we can't take ownership of our country, our communities, our families until we take ownership of ourselves. How can I try to be a leader in my community if I can't control myself and not lose my shit? How can I be a leader in my community and help people? I'm not talking about a leader like, look at me, I'm a leader. I'm saying setting a good example. If I can't, how can I set a good example? Politicians start wars. No, people start wars. I don't like when and so having been involved in politics for years, it's not politicians that start wars, it's you. It's you. And it's me that start wars. Politicians are people. Attaching a title like, oh, they're a congressperson or they're this or that, that's very sophomoric thinking. The big picture here comes down to personal responsibility. I truly feel responsible for everything that happens around me because either it happens because of me or it happens because I didn't do something. That's responsibility. I'm responsible in my community, and if shit's not the way I like it or want it, it's because I allowed it. Can I control everything? No, that would be hubris and foolhardy to think I can control everything. My vote never counted. I don't believe that one bit. I don't believe that one bit. Your vote by itself counts, and it's the most important thing our republic ever has secured for us. We are a democracy and we are a republic at the same time. Do some research on that. People that want to do the old, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. We're 1,000% a democratic republic. Okay, so here we got Luke saying, I hear you, but I feel most folks are too mentally and physically lazy for accountability. So that is literally saying it's hard for people, so let's just talk about something else. That's not how this works. Responsibility is identifying a problem, such as emotional or lack of emotional control, and then taking action to remedy it. Responsibility is saying, I don't like what's going on in my schools. I'm going to fix that. If your vote was changed, I would seek out your state's attorney, your sheriff, and your county clerk, and there should be charges filed with your state board of elections. If you haven't done that, you haven't done your responsible thing to do. And if your vote was changed, Bobby, send me a message. I'd love to hear about that. I can help connect you to people that we can make something happen with that. Otherwise, if you don't contact me or you've already done it, I'm going to assume you're either lying or full of shit. Because to say my vote was changed, but I voted 3 times, I don't know what that means either. I vote in every election. It's very important. But when I talk about this, a lot of times people you guys keep writing, the problem is. How about the solution is? The solution is, rather than me or you continue to just identify what we think problems are, here's what me am willing to do, not what that person should do. Every single one of us is reaping the benefits of somebody else's labor. Every single one of us that lives in the United States or the people in other parts of the world is reaping the benefits of what the founders did here. They were imperfect people by all means, just as every one of us is, which I think it's foolish as soon as you talk about the founders to say, oh, they had slaves, oh, they did this. Some of them had slaves, which I think is evil by today's standards. At that time, they did not. It's not a sweeping under the rug of sin or crime or inhumane activities. It's saying I'm not going to judge them through the optics that I have today based on what they did then. It's foolhardy. There you go. Holding ourselves accountable is what it all comes down to, though. I can't really hold any of you accountable for anything. Even if you were my brother or my son, I can't hold you accountable. Yes, I can say I'm gonna cut you off of your allowance, or I'm gonna take away your internet, or I'm gonna stop visiting with you, right? All right, I like that, Luke. I'm just reading a couple of these. We seek change. We want the benefits of liberty that were handed to us. I've got this same speech I've given over and over again. If you imagine a wheelbarrow, right? That wheelbarrow's piled high with all the stuff that had to be moved in order for our republic to be formed, right? Death, destruction, the loss of treasure, the loss of life, the loss of families, the loss of property, anxiety. You think these people weren't full of fear and anxiety, not knowing what was coming? Freezing to death, starvation, all of these things were piled into this wheelbarrow. And somebody had to pick that wheelbarrow up and carry it in order for the revolution to not only happen, but for us to win it. None of us carried that load. Not one of us. Bobby Poliff, I could never go to work in the morning. Okay, you're out of here, dude. I don't put up with stupid bullshit. I like that, William. None of us carried that load. It's a fact. None of us were there. Unless you're 200 and something years old, none of us were there. So men and women carried a load on our behalf. And you know what's cool? They didn't get along. Some of them got along. Study the history. Some of these men actually fought and had frickin' duels. So here's the duality of the circumstances. Like you guys, one of you saying, well, God was in the schools in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And I gave a counter argument. People say, oh, it's different now. We don't get along. They didn't get along then, but they had a singular purpose of liberty. And that's the problem. You know, I read through comment sections, and as long as you agree with me, you're allowed to have your opinion. As soon as you disagree, you're not allowed to have an opinion. Well, that's not liberty at all. You don't care about liberty. You actually are a tyrannical leader, a tyrannical person. And therein lies the truth of the Second Amendment people. Second Amendment people that I know, 50% or greater, are just as bad as any frickin' gun hater. Just as bad. Because they say, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. Well, sorry, that's just not how liberty frickin' works. And we expect something from other people that we're not willing to give in return. Well, doesn't that make sense? How can I expect you to want to hear my way of thinking, listen to my viewpoint, etc., if I'm not willing to give the same in return? I'll end it there, and then we'll open up to a little question and answer. Learn to start to recognize emotions in your body before you allow yourself to react in the natural world, the physical world. Think about what's happening physically in your body. Think about what's happening mentally in your head. And before you act, think about how are the actions I'm about to take going to impact the world around me? Is it going to be in a positive way or in a negative way? Is it going to be in a way that sheds good around me and spreads kindness, or proliferates good or kindness, or is it going to do the opposite? Is it going to help me grow, help me support my goals, or is it taking away from that? If you don't have goals, maybe you should stop and think about, what are my goals? Any questions or anything like that, and then we'll rock out. If only firearm ownership was as ubiquitous and political as vehicle ownership. Are you asking me when did I last email my governor? I don't understand that question. I've actually don't understand what that means. Why should you have to explain your rights to someone who is ignorant of my rights? Well, here's the thing, Mark. Your rights are only as good as your ability to keep them. That's why you should have to fucking explain them. Until the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, black people not only were not allowed to vote, they were allowed to be owned. Our Constitution enshrined that. Until the suffrage movement, women 101 years ago were not allowed to vote until we changed the Constitution. The Volstead Act took place and we couldn't drink, right? Now we can drink again. There's many amendments to the Constitution that were not there when the Constitution was written. The Bill of Rights was added later. The Bill of Rights is only this many amendments. There's a bunch more. The Constitution is a document that can be changed at any time. So if you don't have the ability to articulate your rights to somebody that wants to take them away, that's a big fucking problem. And that is a reason why rights are continually stripped away, because this attitude of, I don't need to explain my rights. If you don't get it, fuck off. Well, if you don't get it and fuck off is your response, these people have lawyers. They are lawyers. These people have the ability to get the vote out. They have the ability to elect people to office, just as you do. So you better start working really hard. I have sat with state representatives, state senators, U.S. Congress people, U.S. senators. I've sat with governors, multiple governors. So the comment about when I emailed governors, I don't understand the question. City council members, county board members, sheriffs, state's attorneys. I have had sheriffs from big counties try to pressure me to be quiet because I've shared things in the press that were shedding light on the nonsense some of these sheriffs were doing that were anti-gun. My point in bringing all of those various discussions or communication points up is almost every one of them was me educating those people on my rights. That's our duty. You go ahead and stay silent and imagine if the 56 men who signed the Declaration had just stayed silent. That's the fucking problem, is not just lack of trying, it's lack of understanding why we need to try. That's Civics 101. That's the shit that you should have learned in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Civics 101. What else you got? Do I get a little heated? Yeah, I get a little heated. I like that. I will not be in Colorado for training this year, I don't think. You haven't written a letter to your governor bringing up concerns. I don't know what that means either. Hello, Portugal. Am I still shooting cans in my backyard? You've never seen me shoot cans in my backyard. I don't show people my backyard. Change always starts locally. You know, so we talk about the Constitution, guys. Here's the original Constitution right here. Look at the size of this book. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, we're the posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Did you guys know that the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, which if you haven't read the Federalist Papers, do I have the Federalist Papers down here? I suggest you read the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers. They must be up in the office. Yes. Guys like Samuel Adams did not want a constitution. What they were thinking is, shit, man, if you start writing rules down, there will be rules that I'll have to follow. Let's just make no rules. But guys like John Adams said, yes, we need to codify rules in a constitution, which I personally believe we need. We need written law. The Romans did it. The Greeks did it. Written laws are very important. And since day one, people have been fighting about what to put in and take out of it. Since day one. American history books that I recommend. Start with the Federalist Papers, then read the Anti-Federalist Papers. One that's great is, in some ways, it's not so much history, but a man's version of it. Read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. We'll come back out to Salt Lake. I agree. Well, I appreciate that. Aaron Goodman. Aaron, tell me something that you don't agree with me about, and then let's talk about that. I want to hear something Aaron Goodman doesn't agree with me about, and then let's talk about it. Pledge your allegiance, the thing to never surrender. Did you not listen? Or did you tune in later? John Locke I would definitely read Locke. I'd read Hobbes for sure. I share Hume as another good one. So, the thing is, we talk about Locke and Hobbes and Hume and others. It's important that our founders did not just read Hobbes or just read Locke, and they developed what became our Constitution off of the writings of these men. So Marcus Aurelius, if we're talking about anything, you guys are talking about U.S. history. Marcus Aurelius, not U.S. history. Locke, Hobbes, Hume, not U.S. history, but influential people in what became our history, right? Not Marcus, though. So, Aaron, I want to know. God, our God-given rights. I don't understand what that means, Chris Falcon. So, any other questions before I boogie out? And I'd be happy to try to answer them to the best of my ability. Oh, there we go. Luke's laying the goods on. Thanks, Double Stack. Tips for a solid marriage. Learn how to cook. Cook for your wife more than she cooks for you. I agree, Luke. I think it's very important. That's what sent me down that trail. Trading in Arizona. We have Arizona on the calendar right now. All of our training is on carrytrainer.com. The next big event that still has slots is the S12 event. I am hoping some of you guys will be out there. S12 event is an awesome event in Nashville coming up the second week in November. I already did. One reason the Union fought the Civil War was the slaves. Actually, no, the Civil War was not fought over the slaves. The Civil War was really fought about whether or not the South was going to incorporate and create their own country. It was then made about the slaves. It was definitely a portion of it, but most people don't like to understand that while Lincoln was anti-slave, he also, until mid-war, did not sign the Emancipation Proclamation. It was not so much about the slaves as it was about keeping the states together. This is U.S. history. It's not mixed opinion. And I would challenge you, not from a point of me being right, but go deep dive into that and you'll see that the North did not go attack the South. I mean, Battle of Fort Sumter, right? What started the war was not us attacking the South to go free the slaves. We did not start the war by freeing the slaves. Yes, you should bring your own ammo to class. If you do sign up for one of our courses or have information requests, you can get a hold of me through the website. We are putting pressure on Oklahoma big time. I'm tiring to try to fight with a Bible under our arms. Unfortunately, the time to speak may be nearing an end. I don't understand what that means, Chris Falcon. Oklahoma is a very free state. Very free state. I was actually born in the great state of Oklahoma in a little city called Broken Arrow. Got a little Oklahoma in my voice right there. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep, not far. I go to Oklahoma City. All of our states are free. All of our states are free. Agree, Luke B. The Emancipation Proclamation was indeed a war tactic. That does not mean, as far back as the beginning of our republic, there were men that were founders of this country that hated slavery. Didn't want anything to do with it, wanted it outlawed in the states before we were ever a republic, as the revolution was taking place, and it just didn't work. I do believe Rush, Dr. Rush, who's a amazing figure. If you haven't read about him, he's one of the founders, one of the signers. I do believe Rush very much hated slavery and had talked about it quite a bit. Congratulations on citizenship, wherever that is, in Oklahoma, I'm assuming. Broken Arrow's where I was born. Lincoln, yeah, I mean, it's the Emancipation Proclamation, the date of it's pretty well known. You know, my mother's got, I live in Illinois, the land of Lincoln. Of course, Lincoln wasn't born here, but he's buried here. He was a politician here when he got elected as president. And so our state is very heavily influenced by Lincoln. I've got a book up on the shelf there about Lincoln's life. I've loved to read about Lincoln. Lincoln was an amazing man. My mom sometimes would tell me as a kid, because I thought all the stuff that this guy did in his life, all the things that he did that ended in him assassinated, my mom told me as a kid, maybe God took him because, one, he lost most of his family. His kids died young. His wife died. This was a heartbroken man. The war between the states, nobody had ever seen anything like that. We've never seen anything like that. And you can't imagine, none of us can imagine the kind of turmoil. You know, we see what George W. Bush or Obama had to live through with the war on terror. I don't know if, I don't want to sound flippant, but is that anything compared to FDR and Truman with World War II, or Washington during the Revolution? She basically, my mother would tell us as kids, maybe God just said enough's enough for you, knew that this man's heart was just so worn down from what he had to endure, you know? It's kind of a was a nice way for me to think about it, like it was a way for him to go home. So William Cooper, I don't disagree with that. Some founders were very much into slavery. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, they very much took full advantage of slave labor, as did many other founders. I've never much been the kind of person that could look the other way from injustice. And I think there's some things some of us just know to be right and wrong. I would hope that I would have been rabidly anti-slave at the time, but that's the thing. Judging history through what we see and know today is impossible. I mean, doctors for thousands of years didn't understand that the human heart was a pump. They thought that your body just produced blood constantly and it pumped out and just like fizzled out into the ether. The doctor that figured that out, that didn't happen until like just a few hundred years ago, you know, hundreds of years ago. But for thousands of years, the best doctors in the world thought that the heart just pumped blood out of your skin into the ether. Read about that. We look back and say, what are they, stupid? Well, if we knew, we'd be doctors too. Same with germs too. Yeah, we didn't understand about germs or any of that stuff. So it's very hard to look back with what we know. Oh, what do you mean you don't know how to build an airplane? Great read, study about the Wright brothers and what those guys went through. Defending your rights. What if voting doesn't work because of corruption? So if you didn't watch this whole feed, I'd go back and watch it. Voting does work. I do not believe, and I've said this over and over, people tell me, oh, it's wrong. I read this thing on Facebook. I do not believe that there is as much voting corruption as people think. People didn't like Donald Trump. As for as many people as loved him, just as many people hated him. I personally did not like the way that Donald Trump spoke. I didn't like the way that he communicated with people. I didn't like that he insulted and impugned people. Just because you have good just because you have political ideologies or ideas that I might agree with doesn't mean that I'm just going to overlook the fact that you talk to people like a street punk, right? There were plenty of people that did not vote for Donald Trump just because of his attitude. That doesn't mean that something's rigged. So voting is important. Voting is what the first thing that you should do. But more important, go find out who's running in your area. What's important to me is sheriff, state's attorneys, judges, mayor, those kinds of things, councilmen, county board. Call the people. Most of them will talk to you. Call the people. Please don't turn it into Trump versus Biden. Please don't tell me what to turn it into. I'm just saying in general, I'm using an analogy. But it's important that we go out and actually meet these people. And then have a goal. What's my goal? So in the Second Amendment community, as I ran the non-for-profit, the Right to Carry Association, I'd come and I'd say, let's see, in slavery, there's some say more people are enslaved now than ever in history. Read about that. So who cares? Your question. I'm going to come, Mr. Who Cares or Mrs. Who Cares, I don't know what your sex is based on your name. I see you're running for mayor. I've got a couple questions for you, mayor or mayor-to-be. If you were elected mayor, what are your thoughts about? And then I'd ask, what are your thoughts about the Second Amendment? I'd start with that. And usually you'll get some canned response unless the person is very pro whatever the thing is or very anti whatever the thing is. So if they give you a kind of like a generic political response, nail them down. Do you think that it is my right, my birthright to own and possess firearms? Yes or no? See how they respond. Do you think I have a right to protect my life and my property with force if I am challenged by criminal predators? Yes or no? Do you feel it is my right and will you protect these rights for me to carry a gun, purchase a gun? Do you feel my gun should be registered, etc.? You can ask all of these questions. I don't know how many times I've sat with people that were running and they've told me things that it was like, that's bullshit. When we ran the sheriff's campaign here, there's a guy that worked very hard to slander me because he was full of shit, for one. But his name was Jim. Jim was an attorney, and years ago he was a sheriff's deputy. So he thought because he was an attorney that he was like, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult attorneys, but going to law school doesn't make you better or smarter than anybody. But I'm in his office. I said, hey, what do you think about the Second Amendment? I was taking notes. He literally told me he didn't think the Second Amendment was relative today. And that he really felt, this guy was very much a liberal at heart, but he was running as an independent because I'm in a very conservative area. He thought that guns should be limited to hunting purposes and law enforcement and heavily regulated. So I was like, well, I'm not going to support you, nor am I going to ask our association of people to support you. But I did tell him this. I said, if that's your stance, know this. I will work tirelessly to not get you elected. The next 2 years, I worked tirelessly along with many other people, and he didn't stand a chance in hell. We smoked him. We smoked him and a couple other people, and he lost, and he had sour grapes, and he frickin', ranted and raved because he spent his life savings to try to win. Well, I don't want an unconstitutional sheriff that doesn't respect my rights. I respect law enforcement, but I will run you out of my town. If you've got a police chief that you don't like, that police chief is appointed by the city manager, city council, mayor. Usually the city manager hires them. Who do you think hires the city manager, the city council? Tell you what, any two or three of us could take over a city council in any town in America. I'm not talking about Los Angeles or Chicago, but like any town USA, 75, 100,000 people, 20,000 people. By take it over, I mean with work, with effort. We could put 5, 10 people onto a city council, onto a county board. We could do it. Why I don't just do it is it requires an incredible amount of work. I've done it for years. I don't know how many people I helped get on our county board. I don't know how many people I've helped get into city council. Sometimes that help is a lot. Sometimes it's a little. The little could be telling everybody I know, and I know a lot of people in my community, hey, vote for that who cares guy or gal. She's running, he's running for mayor. We need to get this guy or gal in. They're freaking awesome. I've met with them in person, but don't just take my word for it. Here's their number. Call them. That's how we get stuff done. We invest real energy into people that we have real connections with. It's very easy for me to get behind somebody. Here's the other thing. We have to understand presidents, senators, congress people, they're just people. We say, oh, we got them in and nothing happened because you got one person in, right? Right now, we've got a pretty liberal run federal government. So you have a bunch of liberal policies. We've had a very conservative run government, and we've had a bunch of conservative policies. I don't get bent about stuff. People are losing their minds because you stay fixated on the wrong thing. I'm not fixated on what these asshats are doing now. I'm fixated on, or rather focused on, how can we change this in the future? And it's a constant juggling act. You're constantly juggling. It's never going to end until you die, and then you won't have to worry about it anymore. But the maintenance of our republic requires tireless efforts of its members. You and I that live here in these United States of America are the members of this republic. People that keep talking about using violence and force, it's foolhardy. It's actually the lazy man's way out. And it comes full circle in this discussion where we started about giving into our emotions. It's easy to raise a fist. It's easy to take up arms. It is easy. It is not easy to work day in and day out to help repopulate your city council, county board, state house, etc. It takes work. That often takes leadership on a local level, maybe on a larger multi-county level, state level, etc. That's why party politics got created. People don't like party politics. I don't love party politics, but you need some type of framework with which to operate. And it's too easy when people follow party lines to just have bad candidates. The reason that we had only Trump and Biden as our candidates is because of party politics. It's because people don't appreciate how much work is required and they're not putting it in. I hope I answered some questions there. NWO now, National Guard, taking over medical there, so much more. Yeah, that's not new. So these kinds of things are not new at all. World War II, we took people of Japanese descent and put them in concentration camps. It boggles my mind, see, because Americans have short memories and are lazy. Humans are lazy. Americans are really lazy. They don't know our own history. The shit going on now, we have much more trampled on rights. It's NWO, New World Order. All this shit's been done. At the time of the Civil War, this is what people were saying. During the Whiskey Rebellion, people were saying this. During the early 1900s, people were doing this. Thanks, Jody. I would beat George Washington's ass. Yeah, I would beat his ass because I know jiu-jitsu. George Washington did not. There was no Brazilian jiu-jitsu in those days. Township level people too. Yep. Cool. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to end it here. I've got some work I've got to get done. Check out these bruises. That's what happens when you train 3, 4, 5 days a week. Ow, damn it. But that's okay. I earned them. I wish you well. I wish you a newfound respect for yourself, because that's what this is all about. Respecting yourself enough to pass on what's important to you. Pounding our fists and getting angry doesn't do it. We need to develop an innate sense of our emotions, not just so we can control them, but so that we can work with them to get good outcomes in the world around us. Respect and love yourself enough to do the right thing to continue to carry this load of liberty. I will die one day and so will you, but on my deathbed, I will know that I did some of the things possible to continue to proliferate this union. I hope that you will be able to say the same about yourself. I can do more. I will. You can do more, and I hope that you do. Be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. If you've got questions about any of our classes, carrytrainer.com. If you've got questions about things like some speaking engagements, etc., check it out. Brenda says the only thing that's important to her or Rhonda is going to heaven. What you do and how you live in this life does matter. If I only care about the end, then it's all for naught. Blow your brains out now. Eat yourself into oblivion. What you do and how you live in this life does matter. Actually, it matters to me more than about anything. It's the measure of a man, how they treat other people. Be well. Don't be dickheads.